What's up, guys? I'm finally back, finally healthy again, off the day-to-day list, like 2 weeks later, but whatever. So, got a couple things to go over today, and I'm gonna tell you right up front, if you're looking for just like free picks, and I realize we're still in June, right? So, I don't think there's a whole bunch of picks out there right now, but I will be giving, I guess, one or kind of more like solidifying the picks that we have for week one, as well as a Hall of Fame game pick, if you didn't hear it last time, and then a week two pick that I'm really looking forward to. So we're going to go over all that. Most of it's just going to be kind of rehashing, except for one of the picks, like I said. And then after that, we'll get into kind of how to pick your books, because this is about the time of year you need to be looking at getting into your or funding, I should say, your different books that you're going to be using throughout the NFL season. You still have like 2 months or so before you really get going here, but you don't want to wait until that last minute. And I'm going to show you why, but there's a couple things you want to look at. You don't want to be there like the week before the games and you're just throwing money into something because you think it's a good line. Secondly, you want to be able to line shop, because as we get closer to the season, you're going to see these lines move, and obviously being able to take advantage of that is going to really help you. And if you lock something in now, or even like throughout July sometime, or August even for that matter, once we get into preseason and even into like Hard Knocks, you're gonna start seeing some of these lines shift. So if you can jump on one now and get it at, let's say, like a -2, and then by the time the game actually starts, it is plus 3.5 on the other side, you can kind of middle yourself. So let's look at that. But like I said, let's start off with the picks here first of all. So if you didn't already know and you didn't hear the last pick because my voice was like basically non-existent, the Hall of Fame pick, which is going to be on August 4th between the Raiders and the Jaguars, is under 33.5. And we went over this last time, but I believe it was like 7 out of 10 of the last 10 Hall of Fame games have stayed under the pick. And out of those picks, I believe like 2 or 3 of those years, there wasn't a game. Like, your odds are literally better that there just isn't a game than the odds of it going over 33.5. So if you haven't already done that, that's probably the only one I'd say to jump on right now. Some of the other lines are moving. So like for week one, one of my favorite picks, and one of the picks you should probably be looking to get on sooner than later, is the Rams pick'em versus the Bills. And the reason I say that is that line is going to move somewhat, and as we get closer to week one, you're going to probably see more and more money coming in on the Rams because everybody knows they won the Super Bowl. You're going to hear people talking them up because of the Super Bowl, because they're at home, and you're probably going to start hearing some noise about Brian Daboll no longer being with the Bills. I know I've been talking about it basically the entire year since he left, but now you're starting to see other channels pick that up, fantasy channels and outlets picking that up, and then as we get closer to kickoff, you're going to see more and more of mainstream, ESPN, stuff like that, talking about that, and all of those things are going to impact this line. And keep in mind, this is very similar to like the stock market. When the news comes out, people react to that, and you're going to have people like that week of, or maybe even the night of the game, betting money on the Rams and driving that line up. So I could really see this being like Rams -2, Rams -1.5 by the time we actually get to kickoff. So you might as well get it now. The next line that we have is the Ravens -5.5 at the Jets. So we actually could have grabbed this a couple weeks ago at Ravens -5. I think I told you back then I didn't jump on it just yet. It just wasn't worth it for me to put the money down and still have to wait another like 3 months at that time. So I still haven't put money on it. I do believe this line's going to keep going towards the Ravens, and I could really see it going to a -6. I'm still not in a rush. Even for that half point, it's not really worth it for me to keep my money invested for the next 2.5 months still before this game actually kicks off. I do believe it's probably going to get to that -6, and that's really my cap, because 6 is somewhat of a key number. I'm not going to take it past that. So once it gets to -6, if it stays there, great. If I have the time to put the money on it, before it changes past that, because I do think if you wait till September 11th, you're probably looking at Ravens minus 6.5, maybe 7. But this is going to depend on the media. How much are they going to hype up the Jets and how much better they look and the new players and the new offensive line and all that kind of stuff. So while I do expect this one to keep going to the Ravens, as far as where the landing spot is for that, is it 6? Is it 6.5? Is it 7? That's going to be really more up to media and news outlets than it is to us, at least to a certain extent, because at some point you're going to get a buyback, meaning that if the Ravens get to like 7, you're going to have some of these big money guys come in and bet the Jets plus a 7, knowing that they already grabbed the Ravens at 5, and again, trying to middle themselves. So this line will kind of even out, but I do believe it goes up to at least the minus 6. So those are two of the ones that we're on. The money line, the dog that we're on for week 1 is the Patriots. Is at plus 130 right now. This is on Bovada. A couple other sites have already dropped this down to plus 125. This is a game that I actually have put some money down on already. About a month ago, we got it at plus 135, and then it seems like ever since I kind of spoke that into existence, there has been money coming in on the Patriots. So it went down to 130, kind of doubled up at that point. And then I tried to get some more down on it recently, but at most places it is at plus 125. So you have to go out and look for that plus 130 and just going on the money line. If at some point it gets to Patriots plus 3, and I don't believe that it will, I think the line's probably going to actually move the other way. But if for whatever reason you can find a Patriots plus 3 out there, I would look into taking the spread. Otherwise, I'm just going to take the money line on that one. So that is 3 picks for week 1, as well as the Hall of Fame game. The only other week 1 pick that I have, and this is one I don't believe I've talked much about on this channel, is this 49ers at the Bears for week 1 at the minus 6.5. Like I just said, 6 is of course a key number. 7 is also a key number. And I have to pull up the stats, but I believe it's even more of a key number as far as last year than the 6 was. And that's traditionally the way it is. 7 is usually a bigger key number than 6. But that all being said, that Bears offense just has nothing to offer us, at least for week 1. I think everyone's probably talked about how the talent pool is pretty thin in Chicago. The depth is pretty thin in Chicago, just all over the field. They may have a good player here or there, but there's like literally nobody behind them, including Justin Fields. If he goes down, I'm not really sure what the Bears plan on doing. And this is on both sides of the ball. They don't really have a lot of depth anywhere on the field. Also, though, this does go into something else that we talked about on the last video, which was the first coach, or the new coach opening season, kind of how that record goes. And if you don't remember, they were something along the lines of like 5-14 to open the seasons. So first time head coaches not typically faring very well, and that is an issue, especially when you're playing against a 49ers team who doesn't have a new coach. They have really a lot of the returning starters from last year. Yes, they may have Trey Lance, and that's probably the only thing that's really going to be changed here is the quarterback. I don't think they're going to let Debo go, and I don't think really a lot of that offense is moving anywhere. If anything, they may just be getting some additional pieces back and getting obviously a little bit healthier than they were last year. And just to be exact, it is a 25% win rate for first-year head coaches in their season openers. So again, not only do the Bears not have a great team, at least not on paper, they have a new coach, and it's just not really setting up well for them. There's not really a reason that I can give you to bet on the Bears other than you just think that 6.5 is too much. On that note, though, it is a good kind of segue into when you are betting a dog, just like we saw with the Patriots earlier, you don't want to bet a dog thinking that's just too many points. I don't think they can lose by that much. Typically, if you're going to bet a dog, you're betting them because you think they have at least some shot. May not be a great shot, but they have some shot to win the game. If you're betting something because it just seems like a lot of points. 7 just seems like a lot. So I don't want to touch the other side. I'm gonna take my 7 points and I don't think they can lose by more than that. That's not a good strategy, mainly because if a team is losing, odds are they're gonna dig themselves in a hole. The more a team gets down and the later it gets in the game, the more that team has to kind of push to get out of that hole, and the more desperate they get, and the more desperate they get, the more mistakes they make, and it's just kind of like a snowball effect. So either they pull out of it and they just outright win, or they may lose by like 20, 25, 40, 30, whatever it is. So you don't want to look at it at a certain spread and just say, I just think that's too much. That alone should not be the reason you're betting something. So with all of that being said, the 49ers minus 6.5 is going to be my fourth pick for that week 1. There's a couple of other really good games that we can maybe look to break down in week 1, but I have not seen a great enough angle on any of these. One that kind of stood out was the Bengals and the Steelers. Yes, the Bengals on paper should be much better than the Steelers. Steelers still have Mike Tomlin though, so it's not like there's a new head coach there. This is a divisional game. It's very tough rivalry, very physical, and I think that the Steelers can slow that game down enough to kind of keep it close enough to where I don't want to be putting money down on the Bengals to blow the Steelers out come week 1. Same thing with a lot of these games, like the Giants and Titans. I think the Giants are going to be much improved this year, just like most of us do. And I know we talked about this with Brian Daboll, but again, he is a brand new coach. And to say I think they are going to cover the 6.5, while I personally do lean that way, it's not enough for me to just put any money on at this point. This Bronco Seahawks, kind of the same thing. I do believe the Broncos are going to go to Seattle and just beat the dog shit out of Seattle. And that's what I would really like to put money on, but as of right now, there's just not enough for me to do that. Broncos have a new coach. Broncos are obviously bringing in Russell Wilson and probably a new system and all sorts of new stuff. And to say I think week 1 they're going to have it all up and running and be 100% and be all guns firing, I don't think so. And the Seahawks play such a slow game, and they're going to probably try to keep this a low-scoring game. And for as bad as I think that they are, I do believe Pete Carroll probably knows a lot of Russell Wilson's tendencies, and he probably knows how to take advantage of some of those tendencies. So I don't really want to lay money with the Broncos that week. That being said, going into week 2, and this one I have mentioned on the channel, but I don't think we really talked about it a whole lot or stressed it a whole lot. But in week 2, this Broncos Texans game is a very strong under for me. In the last, I believe, 3 years, the Broncos have not allowed their home opener to go above 42, and that's saying a lot because the Broncos defense, yes, it has been good, but to keep a team in check on defense this early in the season is typically pretty hard because you don't have a lot of tape on them. You don't have a lot of stats. On the other side of the ball, though, the Texans, Lovie Smith is just god-awful. We talked about that on the last episode here, or last video, but I don't expect anything from him. I don't expect anything from that offense. The offense really has not improved very much. I think there's some people out there who are like drinking some Kool-Aid on the Texans. I just don't see it. The players are not much different. The coach, I believe, is the same, at the very best, the same, probably actually worse than they were last year as far as coaching goes. Very old mentality of, like, let's run the ball. They're bringing in all these running backs with the intent of running the ball and kind of keeping everything out of Davis Mills' hands and going to try to be a strong defense and all that other crap. And it's just not going to work. Maybe they win some games here and there. Their over-under for total team wins is 4.5, so we're not expecting them to win a whole lot of these games. But the Broncos, on the other hand, while we do expect them to win a fair amount of games, we're not expecting the Broncos to have this high-flying offense. Yes, they have good pieces. Yes, they have Cortland Sutton. They have ways to move the ball. But at the end of the day, I think the Broncos are still going to be a conservative team. They're not going to try to let Russell Wilson go out there and throw 50 times a game, especially if they don't need to, especially this early in the season. There's no point in kind of putting your players out there. If they have this one kind of wrapped up in like the third quarter, I could see them just taking their guys out. Lastly, Denver, and the reason that I kind of focused on Denver in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, especially for their home opener, is that high altitude. And then again, this is another thing we didn't mention previously. In Denver, the high altitude this early in the season, you're catching players when they're not like in mid-season form just yet. It's going to be harder to breathe, and it's still going to be a little bit warm. Yeah, it's Denver, so it's not going to be super hot, but it is going to be harder to perform and to stay kind of, I don't want to say healthy, but just kind of keeping that stamina level up throughout the full 4 quarters. So again, I see both these teams kind of petering out towards the end of this game, as well as just both these teams not really trying to score a whole bunch once the game is in hand. Maybe the Texans try to push the envelope and see what they can do with the late game comeback, but assuming that this goes somewhat according to plan, I think we're in for a very low scoring game here, probably like a 17-13 kind of score. That's it as far as picks. So the only other thing I want to mention on just picks or handing out picks is that I'm probably not going to have a whole lot more to go over until the Madden ratings drop. If you're new to the channel, Madden ratings are very important for one of the algorithms that we put together. It is literally what we call the Madden algorithm, and it goes directly off of player ratings. And once we have those ratings dropped, I'll get into how we use it and why we use it and why it's even like profitable or worth our time to be putting that algorithm together. Because the first year I ever did this, I heard a lot of pushback, just saying like, hey, it's a video game. It's not anything one can really use for handicapping. This is just kind of like a BS thing. But if you go back to last year's channels, especially through the first, I believe, 4 weeks or 6 weeks, it's very profitable. Really put us on a lot of good picks, a lot of good teams, and set us up with a great beginning to the season. And then we kind of mix it with some other algorithms. But the Madden algorithm for the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season is a strong play. So once those ratings drops, I can put those algorithms together, and I can kind of let you guys know what the first couple of weeks should be looking like as far as plays that we have, maybe some strengths and weaknesses for teams, as well as some trap games and picks and things like that. Those ratings did not come out until I believe August, so it's probably going to be a little bit before we can talk about that. Maybe late July, depending on how Madden does their ratings. But we'll get there when we get there. Then, of course, I'll make a video as soon as I can when they drop. Now, if you are here for picks, that's going to be pretty much it, guys. Feel free to check out. But if you are new to NFL gambling, or if you're new to just gambling in general, stick with me here. And I want to show you a couple things about picking your sports book. There was another video I posted a couple weeks back, and that video is a little bit older. I believe it's like 2 or 3 years old at this point. But in that video, I went over different like deposit and bonuses and things like that, and kind of how you pick your sports book. In this one, I want to go over how to use cryptocurrencies, and that's probably the biggest question I get from friends, family, viewers, all that kind of stuff when it comes to using their books is, hey, I know of 1 or 2 places that I want to use, but I don't know how to get my money in there with crypto. And why do they want to use crypto? Number 1, it's free. Number 2, it is the fastest way to deposit as well as to withdraw funds. If you are trying to use like a debit card or a credit card, a lot of times your bank will stop those charges from going through. Whether you're in a place where it's legal or not, a lot of banks just don't want to deal with that, and to be safe, they will stop all of those charges. And even if your bank is okay with it, a lot of times it'll still give you issues because MasterCard or Visa will stop those charges, and then you have to kind of go through your security stuff, and it's a whole pain in the ass. So that being said, crypto is definitely the way to go when depositing and withdrawing, because when you withdraw funds, it's kind of the same way. A lot of banks are not going to accept some random deposit from an online book, or even from like Vegas. If you're able to get into Vegas, they give you a check. It can be a little bit hard to cash. So the cryptocurrency route allows you to deposit the money back into your crypto bank, and then from there sell it for cash and put that into your Cash App or debit card or whatever you want to do. That being said, the walkthrough that I'm going to give you here is using Cash App, and I do strongly believe that is the easiest way to do this. They make it as user friendly as possible. So if you've never used cryptocurrencies and you've never used it through Cash App, kind of follow along with me and we'll get through this together. It's really, really easy. It's really straightforward, and typically you can expect this process to take about 5 to 10 minutes. Obviously, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. But the end part of this is the part where it gets a little nerve-wracking the first couple times you do it, because you see your money gone and you don't see it necessarily appear in the book instantaneously. So let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. And again, this is on Bovada's channel, or on Bovada's site. So and I apologize, this part is going to be off the screen, but when you click on your little like profile icon there, this deposit button comes up, obviously. So that's what you're going to want to click. Once you click the deposit button, it's going to take you here, and it's going to actually give you a couple different ways to deposit. Now, this one here obviously is what we're going to use if you're using Cash App, because they only allow you to buy Bitcoin. You can't buy like Ethereum or anything like that. You can use your card, like I was saying, but one of the things with the card, like I said again previously, is the fees. So I clicked on this just to kind of show you what your fee is. So if you use a credit card, you're looking at a 5.9% fee. So if you're gonna put $100 into this, you're really gonna end up paying about $106. And while it doesn't seem like a big amount, you're going to also have a fee to withdraw the funds. And this is not to pick on Bovada. Just about every sportsbook does this if you use a card, because they have to pay MasterCard, they have to pay Visa, the transactions fee. So they're going to pass that fee along to you, and then they're going to take another little bite at it to kind of make up some of their funds, or to make some cash. And when you're talking about 5-6%, keep in mind your goal as far as being a sports bettor. You're trying to do 52% just to break even. So any extra little fees and kind of chip away at this, whatever profits you can make is going to come directly out of that profit line. So if a great season for us is going 56-57%, having to pay any of these extra little fees here and there add up, and they can bring that down to 54% really easily. And this is not a good setup. Also, this is going to strongly depend on how much you are playing. So if you're playing, $10 a hand or $10 a game, 6% is going to be a pretty big chunk of that by the time you try to cash out here. Whereas if you're playing like $1,000 a wager, it's not as much. Yes, it's still 6% of the deposit, but $6 in comparison to $5,000 that you maybe made that season, not a big deal. Whereas $6 compared to $60 that you made for the season, that's a bigger chunk of change, or a bigger percentage. So just wanted to show you the credit card route, but let's get back into crypto. So when you click on this Bitcoin tab here, it's going to bring us to this page, and it's going to ask you for your bonuses. I will say this Bovada bonus, and this is actually the reason I'm showing you the Bovada screen, is probably one of the better ones I've seen this off season. So the Bovada bonus is up to 50% match on up to 3 deposits. And not only is it a 50% match, but it is only a 5-time rollover. So if you're not familiar with this, and this is like a first year that you're getting into this, or you're trying to get into it, be aware of these rollovers, because I can't tell you how many times people have said, I put in $50, I won, and I won twice, and I still can't get my money out. Like, what's going on? A 5 times rollover means that you have to bet the money that you put in plus your bonus 5 times over. So if you put in let's say $50, and the 50% bonus is obviously $25. So that's a total of $75. You have to bet that $75 5 times over before you can take anything out. Now, some of the different books will let you take out some of it, but a lot of times they will charge you a fee. So if you've won and you're up to like $120 and you try to take some of that out, they may say, we're going to take our bonus back, which is the $25 plus a fee. So you end up only taking out like 75, and that's kind of like, okay, well, I won $25 for, winning 2 or 3 games, and that's not really what you want to do, obviously. So just be aware of this. 5 times is really not bad at all. That's actually really, really good for a 50% match. And keep in mind that if you're doing this now and you're planning on playing the full season of the NFL, or even just like if you're going to focus on the first couple of weeks like I traditionally do, you can go through that 5 times rollover really quickly. Again, keep in mind, we're going to be doing roughly 3 to 4 wagers a week, maybe 5 wagers a week once we get going here. So 5 times rollover is really just like a week worth of plays for us. And if you really needed to, you could stretch it into 2 weeks, but that's going to be something very easy to hit. I would probably cap out a rollover requirement at about 10, meaning that if you go to a certain book and you see that their bonus is like 15 times, and there are some books out there, I believe Bet DSI is one of those, where they're willing to give you like 100% or 150% of your deposit, but the rollover is 15 times. Unless you are very, very sure that you're going to hit that requirement, again, it's going to be very, very dependent on your play style and how much you're playing. You may want to shy away from that one and come to something more of like a 50% or even like 100% rollover. In a lot of places, it's only like a 5 to 10 times requirement. So enough about that. Just make sure you read these details before accepting any of these bonuses, because they will kind of come back and bite you in the ass if you're not sure what you're doing. But Bitcoin. So you have this QR code here or this copy button. These are the only 2 I would tell you to use. Try to just avoid this button here. Yes, it does work, and if you know how to use it, great. But if this is your first time and you're never using Bitcoin, probably don't do this one, because you have to have a Bitcoin wallet, and if you don't have it set up, that's a whole nother step. So keep in mind this QR code or this copy button here, because once you copy this, it is going to copy this address here, and this is a crazy long address to keep in mind. So that's where you get started. What you're going to do from here is go into your Cash App, and for this I just made like a little example one for $1. So this is what your Cash App should look like when you first open it, and it starts with this like middle cash here, right? So $0. Once you open this here, you have this B on the side. It stands for Bitcoin, obviously. When you click on this, it's going to show you how much you have here. So I had like $2 in Bitcoin in this particular account. You would click buy, and in our case, I'm going to just buy the $1 worth of Bitcoin. It comes up, it'll highlight this. If you have more than $1, obviously you can choose one of these. This 3 buttons here allows you to pick whatever number you want. So for the $1, you would just click next, and then it gives you this little confirmation. So $1 Bitcoin, here's your amount of Bitcoin is 0.000, whatever this is. So that's what you get there, and you hit confirm, and you'll see the Bitcoin has now changed to $3.13. So that's how much Bitcoin we have. Once you're ready to send this over to your book, whichever book you choose, and they're all pretty similar as far as the deposit process, like the screen I just showed you, where it's either that copy button or that QR code. So for this one, obviously this will be on your phone for Cash App. Once you have that, you're going to actually click this little like arrow, I guess here it is, and it's going to show you a dollar amount. This is how much do you want to send. So for this one, I just put 3, and it kind of converts that into Bitcoin down here. Once you hit this send button, it takes you to this page here, and this shows you, okay, this is the amount of Bitcoin, the 0.00144436. This 2 line here where it says the BTC address, that is where this copy button comes in handy. You're going to copy this long address here, and then you're just going to paste it into this 2 button. And once you do that, you're going to hit next, and that's it. The funds, it'll say your funds have been sent, and that's all you got to do. You will see them instantaneously come out of your Cash App. The website, whether it's Bovada or any other book, is gonna most likely tell you on the next screen there. It'll ask you, successfully deposited, blah blah blah. Please wait for 5 minutes, unless you chose something like Rush or something like that. The Rush you can do with Cash App. I believe it's like 1% charge. So 1% of whatever you're sending over is going to be added to your charge. So you can do that, especially if it's like very urgent. Kind of the point of doing it so early is you don't have to pay those extra fees. But once you do that, it usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes with the Rush, and then you'll see your playable amount on your book go up, and that's it. You'll usually get like an email or a text, depending on your settings, saying that your deposit has been made from your Cash App application, and it just confirming that your funds were sent over. And that's it. You're ready to play. When you are ready to cash out, same thing. You're gonna you click on your little profile icon. You go to the cashier. You'll hit cash out, and then when it comes to send Bitcoin, you're just gonna do everything in reverse. The Bitcoin will actually ask for your address. So on your Cash App, the same buttons that we were hitting, there will be a button there that says receive. When you hit that, it's going to give you a code. You'll hit copy. You'll enter your code into your book's website, hit send, and then they will send you your money. Typically, you get your money in about 5 to 10 minutes as well. And then once you're in Cash App, you can actually click the sell button, and I'll show you here. This sell button here, once you sell the Bitcoin, it'll automatically flow over into the actual dollars portion of Cash App. And from there, it's up to you if you want to use like your Cash App card, or if you want to have that sent over to your checking account, or whatever that may be, and it flows through much easier, much quicker, no issues. So, a couple things we went over. Check your bonuses, check your description, make sure that you're okay and you're agreeable with the terms that they're giving you. Also, how you use the cryptocurrencies to deposit. And I can't stress enough, guys, look at the details on all of your books. If you're not familiar with a lot of online books just yet, there's like a million and one of them. You can literally just Google like online sports gambling. Bovada is probably the most square book, meaning that it's the most public book. It's run out of Las Vegas. Super easy to work with. They are definitely the most user-friendly. But as you can imagine, some of the lines aren't so great. And it's really something of like a backup book for most people once you've been playing for a while, because you know that you can use another book as kind of like your leader to see when the line moves. And then once you see the line move there, hop on to Bovada, get the better line that has not moved yet with the kind of the public still before that moves. So just know how to use your books. If you have any questions about it, if you're wondering like what book is a good fit for you, or what books are more like square or sharp or anything, I can try to help as much as possible. Just put whatever questions you have in the comments below. Obviously, I'm not saying I'm a perfect expert with any of these books, but the ones that I have used, I feel pretty comfortable talking about. So, hopefully you learned something. I'll be back with another video pretty shortly here. I'm actually putting together a list on different spot games that we can look at as we get the season going. But other than that, thank you again for watching this. Sorry it's been so long. Thank you for putting up with my shitty voice last time. You guys have a great day.